thank you, Jasner. Thank you. We just missed 1 minute of your speech. It was a problem, technical connection for translation, but the last part is it. And very, very welcome to Mrs. Adamovich. I think you are in Dansk at this moment. You will fly probably next week for the plenary here in Brussels of European Parliament. A very warm welcome to you for what you and your husband have done for Dansk, for Poland, and for Europe. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luca Javier, President of European and Social Committee. Thank you very much, dear Professor Hausner, for inviting me to this conference. Thank you especially for all the warm words towards my late husband and me. So I will say a few words about how to be united in development, that we must stay united in Europe. Let us unite the economics, let us share resources, let us start redistribution at the European level, and we will achieve a sense of European unity. That is what the founding fathers of the community thought, and that is what we often think to this day. However, all of a sudden we are forced to confront politicians and governments that say, we deserve money from those who are richer, but we do not care about the rules. They say, give, but do not demand. They say, let us share wealth, but do not values or law. They are like a pathological family that waits for welfare checks, but do not let social workers into the house. Is it possible to help such a family by simply increasing transfer? Or do we need to revise the rules? Let me put it straightforward terms. The Union will fall apart if we remain convinced that the economy and financial transfer are sufficient for Europeans to believe in the integration. Poland has managed to develop in a spectacular way. The UK has benefited enormously from the enlargement, and so has the Hungary. But yet, a few fake news, manipulation, and a certain dose of social engineering were enough to undermine the sense of the European integration and even to question the rule of law. We live in the times when narratives and stories about reality are more important than reality itself. By focusing solely on the reality, we leave the field of narration to nationalists, to demagogues, to all possible extremists. Let us imagine again a house with a family. The family is not able to show understanding to each other. It suffers from a lack of trust. But people from outside provoke and entice the family to live outside the house. And what is our response? We decide just to paint the walls and renovate a bathroom, believing that this is how we will save the family. Therefore, I'm convinced that at present the greatest threats to democracy, the rule of law, are the growing scale of disinformation, manipulation, fake news, and limited access to reliable information. It threats to existence of the European Union. They are social engineering tools used to manipulate society in order to achieve particular political goals. Through a spread of hatred, misinformation and disinformation, power is gained or maintained in many places around the world, including in the European Union. We are becoming more and more powerless witnesses of the cancellation of democracy. Elections based on hate, lack of information, instrumentally created informational devices, and disinformation will never become democratic. The power of the internet means that today the election results can be de facto programmed with a piece of fake news. The principles of democracy are lagging behind technology. Democracy is behind more and more powerless in face of mass manipulation. To put it simply, the mechanism is following: awake aversion, then hatred towards arbitrarily defined opponents, humiliate a group, ideas or institutions, thereby polarizing society to a level where hatred becomes an emotion stronger than adherence to the rule of democracy, the rule of law and human rights. As a result, it becoming possible to obtain more and more consent for authoritarian governments. This allows undemocratic leaders with authoritarian inclination to formally win democratic election. But the social engineering machine used to win such election is in principle invalidates their democracy. It is against this paradox that current institutions governed by the rule of law become powerless. European solidarity, European policies, treaties, and the ideas of European integration in general are becoming helpless. Some opponents of the community say that the Union steals from us, and the other say about the same solidarity, the Union is not giving us enough. Moving money from one place to another will not deprive them of their arguments. They will lose their polarity only if Europeans understand what it is and why we pursue a policy of solidarity. To this end, it is necessary to create tools for a greater and real influence of Europeans on the future of the community. The reinvention of Europe cannot be done yet once again in expert and political circle. Such an approach will inevitably lead to more exits, as it would be an excellent breeding ground for nationalists and populists, using it as a proof of the deepening deficit of democracy in the EU and the alienation of its structures from ordinary people. So, mimicking the rhetoric of next founding fathers or relying fully on the advices of the board of experts would be a final stroke to directed at the European integration. That is why we must give back the idea of Europe to its citizens. For some time already, I have been thinking of organizing 50 European Citizens' Assembly in 50 largest European cities. The methodology for such panels was developed and tested in Gdańsk by my husband and has proved to be perfect for solving even the most difficult challenges or problems. The template for such a method can be made publicly available to everyone, and thus apart from those 50 large panels, and a number of smaller panels could be held in smaller cities or towns. The result of those panels complied would be sent to EU institutions and policymakers. In this way, we could reverse the compromise method of public consultation, which until now consists in presenting for consultation solutions previously developed by experts and lack wide and grassroots perspective. Now it should be the Europeans who will decide what Europe they want, and it would be the politicians and officials who will get the task of realizing that vision. This is the only way to contain populists, nationalists, and propaganda aiming to destroy European Union. The solidarity that pulled Poland out of communism led to the fall of the Berlin Wall and disintegration of the entire Eastern Bloc and the reintegration of Europe was guided by several principles. Collective wisdom is more important than wise men. Cooperation in the common good is more important than individualism. And each individual being together in a community of citizens is more important than any authority. Let us draw on these models on the 40th anniversary of the creation of the Great Polish Solidarity Movement. And in this way, let us tell Europeans about the new European solidarity. Then the Union will not only survive, but will grow into a true community. Thank you one more for the invitation, and thank you one more for giving me floor.